something that came to mind just this morning as I was getting my stuff ready. You know, I've been getting it ready with you every time I come on here, and it's a ritual that I've started. It's something that I've decided that I want to share with you. And really, it's about creating that container, that safe container, where you can really let your guard down and be who it is that you are, really are, underneath whatever you're using to perform in society. Yeah, this past week, I have been doing a lot of reading and reflecting and taking time for myself, just pausing and slowing down, because you really need that downtime. And a lot of the times I don't think that we take it when we need it. And so our bodies or our minds start to break down or start to grasp at things that are trying to fall away, that are meant to. And we take that for granted a lot because we're so worried about what other people are going to think. If I let this part of myself go, what are they going to think? This is case in point, my eyebrows. They've changed so much over the last, since I retired from the military in 2019. And I'll say that when I was younger, if you knew me when I was younger, you already know this, but when I was younger, up until around the time that I had my youngest daughter, so 2003, 2004, 2005, was when somebody had said something about my eyebrows. The first time ever somebody had ever said anything about my eyebrows, because they were too thick. You know, they weren't with the times. And they're like, how about, like, I do my own eyebrows. How about I do them for you? And this girl was beautiful, well put together, very professional, very up and coming. And so I let her do my eyebrows. And I remember her name, just remember her name. And I liked it. And now I wonder, if I go back to that time in my life, did I like it because I actually appreciated the way that it shaped my face? Or did I like it because she was so perfect and she had her eyebrows done? And so then that's why I did mine. And so over the past few years, 6 years, I have slowly let them go. And now they're really to what their new normal is. I mean, I haven't done them in a long time, so they just are what they are, right? And nobody's perfect. I know my face isn't symmetrical. But I know that yours probably isn't either. You're just fighting harder to conceal it. And shaping the eyebrows is one of the ways that we conceal that asymmetry. We want everything to be so perfectly seamless. And I am by no means saying if you get your eyebrows done that you need to let them go. I'm not saying that at all. It's whatever makes you happy. But the key here is, does it make you happy? And for me, it was something that I was spending my time and my money on that I didn't feel really reflected what I wanted, right? Yes, I know it's not expensive to get your eyebrows done. I've tried doing them myself too, and I maintained them myself for a very long time. And I hope that you see the symbolism here. I'm not just talking about eyebrows, which whenever you watch one of my videos, I'm always giving a, for instance, an experience, if you will, lived through others. And it's never just about the topic at hand, right? It's always about the deeper inner self-reflection. And it just wasn't something that I wanted to spend my time and my money on. And so slowly I let it go. And I've only had one person say something since I let them go. One person. And I realized how much that person is worried about how they are perceived by the world. And that has absolutely no bearing on me, right? So When they said it, I was like, the fuck's wrong with your eyebrows? Like, what do you mean what's wrong with my eyebrows? They're normal. This is how they grow. And if you don't like the way my face looks, look somewhere else. Nobody's making you make eye contact with me or look at my face, right? That's something that you're self-imposing. But anyways, I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm reading a book by the author named Sol Smith. He's also a doctor, PhD, psychologist, maybe psychiatrist. I think psychologist though. Anyways, about autism, and he is an autistic, and he also has ADHD. And so anyways, it's given me a lot of stuff to think about, and I'm noticing how much I have conformed to this world. And you know, we talk about neurotypicals and neurodivergence, or allistics and autistics and ADHD and all of these labels, which, you know, labels just help us to identify our world in a way that makes sense to us, right? And so if I'm going to apply the label of high functioning autistic to myself, it just helps me to understand how I process information. And I process information so differently than other people. And I never really realized how different that processing was until my dad passed away. That's when I really started to have that first aha moment. Remember, we talked about that in 2017. I had my first aha moment. And ever since then, those layers have started to come off. I've started to go through perimenopause, which has made some really crazy hormonal shifts in my life. Has changed a lot of things that I thought I knew about my body into something else. It made me unrecognizable to myself for a while. Now I'm seeing a specialist and I'm getting that stuff taken care of. And I'm starting to feel more of myself, but it really has made me question what is actually me, right? And, you know, there's been a lot of fear surrounding what is me. I remember a couple of years ago, I went and had a medicinal plant journey, and people that have been following me for a while have heard my experience. I've been on a podcast before about my experience, and it really helped to break down even more some of those things that weren't really normal to me, but I was allowing to happen. And during that time in my life, I started to have a lot of panic attacks. And I attributed it to the microdosing that I was doing at the time. But in reality, my old way of thinking was dying. And I was having a lot of anxiety surrounding that. Because who am I? Who have I been? Why have I been this way? Why was I this person? How did this serve me? How does this not serve me anymore? What's my life going to look like now that I'm not letting those things control my life? And this has been a crazy ride since 2019. It's been a crazy ride the entire time, right? I have a lot of stories. But the journey back home to myself has been so amazingly revelatory. I tried to fit into the Christian mainstream, and there was a lot of, at first I was fitting in, right? Just like anything else. At first I was fitting in, and I was conforming myself to their ideals, their ideologies. And then I started to go through, I know I'm kind of all over the place. I started to go through a period where I started to drink really heavily. And, looking back at that time in my life now, it's like you were drinking really heavily because you were not able to cope with who you weren't, but that you were portraying. And I had a lot of revelations during that time. That was a time in my life when people said that I was prophetic. A lot of people have told me that over my life. And I don't necessarily subscribe to that label anymore. It's more, I'm extremely intuitive. And the difference is that I cannot tell you your future. I can tell you what's going on right now that could possibly shape things that are happening in the future. And I can also tell you how your future can look if you continue down this path. But that's me being intuitive. I am in tune with the nuances that you are not in tune with. I am also in tune with the nuances of the universe, and whereas most people are not. I see a lot of different symbols and signs and things that a lot of people don't see because they refuse to acknowledge it. And so then they come to people like me because they either can't or won't look into it themselves. And by can't, I don't mean that they don't have the ability. I mean that they're suppressing it within themselves, because everybody has the ability. That's why sometimes your stomach gets tight before you enter a room, because you already knew that there was going to be strife in that room before you entered it. Even if you didn't know who was going to be in the room when you got there. But you chose to suppress it and you walked into the room anyway, right? So everybody has those abilities. It's just whether or not they want to manifest those in a real physical way. So anyways, and then I got to a place where I couldn't deal with Christianity anymore. And it turned to me, I was angry at Christianity for a long time. And I still have a lot of triggers around the word God. It's not as triggering as it used to be, but it still triggers me a little bit because it reminds me of a lot of things that I had to make myself into to belong when I shouldn't have had to do that. And, if you really are reading the Bible, Jesus doesn't tell you to fit in. He tells you to wreck shit. Tells you to wreck shit and be real with yourself. That's what he tells you. And in that, you find God, which is in you. Anyways, I'm not going to get off into that. So, and then there's, the whole military thing. I was in it for the long haul. I stayed until I hit my 20 years, and then I was like, okay, I can't do this shit anymore. Bye. And I realize it's because a lot of the personalities that tend to be drawn to the military are people that want positions of power or significance. And it's not always just about a sense of belonging. And for me, it was about a means to an end, right? I need a job. I would like money for college. Yes, I'm serving my country. And so what comes along with that comes along with that as far as the job is concerned. But personality-wise, I wasn't looking to be a leader of sorts in the mainstream way. I definitely prefer to lead from fostered relationships and, leading from behind. And I expect someone to walk with me and not necessarily in front of me. Or, I can walk behind them too, but that doesn't mean I don't get a say, right? It's just kind of like the navigator and the plane. They are as valuable as the pilot in a different way. And so there's a lot of fear surrounding letting go of the things that you aren't. And there's a lot of fear because you know that you're going to have to let go of some hands to get there. You know that you're going to have to let go of some codependency because it's not support, because they're not supporting you. They aren't supporting you, because if they were, then you wouldn't have to act, right? You wouldn't have to continue to do what they want or behave the way that they think that you should behave or respond the way that they think that you should respond. And there's a lot of fear in that. And I just want you to know that on the other side of that fear, just like anything else great that you've done in your life, it probably started with a little seed of fear that probably grew, but not enough to make you not do what it was that made you feel so wonderful on the other side of it. And so that's brave. That's courageous of you to go through with whatever it is that you know inherently is the way that you should go or that you want to go, and you don't let the fear take over that. There's a lot of fear right now in our world, and I was talking to a friend about it last night because she was like, I am so disappointed and frustrated with the way that people are talking and thinking and being. And I thought about it for myself, from my own perspective, and I was like, I've really been shielded from that. And, if you believe in dimensions and blah, 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 I'm in a different dimension than a lot of other people. Sure, I still reside on this earth, but I'm in a different dimension, I think. Because a lot of that stuff, while surface level, I can look down at it and say, or not look down because I'm not looking down, look at it and say, That doesn't apply to me. I don't subscribe to that. That right there wasn't a straight out lie. This over here is actually closer to the truth. And I can see the different sides of the different chaos that's coming about. And I'm also removed from it. You know, I'm an uninterested third party because I already know how it's going to turn out. And I'm grateful for that, because before I'd have been all in it. You know, like, oh my gosh, what's happening on the news right now? Oh my gosh, what did this person say? Why'd they say that? Well, let me see if I can find the whole story. Man, I don't care about any of that shit anymore. Because in reality, that's their life playing out. Sure, it does have some overlap with mine. But those are those people's realities playing out. And there's a lot of awakening and reckoning coming. And there's a lot of fear for a lot of people. And it's one of those things where sometimes there's fear because you know what the proper choice is, the most bestest answer is, and you're afraid to take that step because of all the things that you think you're going to lose. And then there's also the fear of, I'm no longer relevant, I'm no longer, or I'm running out of favor, or whatever, right? And so then there's that fear, the fear of the resistance to change, because you know that the change is coming, but you don't want it. But newsflash, it's going to change anyway. It is. It just is. The world is ever changing. Something else I wanted to point out real fast. I watched the last Jurassic Park last night, and there were a couple of quotes in that movie that I was like, what's Jurassic Park trying to do here? But one of them is that, you know, we're talking about, you know, climate change and all of this stuff. And in reality, the earth is just doing what the earth does. It's going to change in a way that helps some species thrive and, you know, extinguishes others. It's done that since the beginning of its existence. And what they had said in the movie was 99% of all species that have been on the earth have perished. 99%. Now, I don't know if that number is accurate, but I do know that extinction is real. And so in reality, we're not in control of any of this. Sure, we may contribute to it, but that's like saying flies contribute to it, because they go around and they eat things that are dead and they process it and change the energy from something that is dying into a new source, right? And they get rid of some things that are undesirable in the process. And so we are part of that. We are like insects to the earth if you think about the mass enormity of it, and then your part that you play in it. I mean, you're nothing to it, the earth. You are an atom to the earth, atom. And yeah, so there's change is paramount. Change is coming. Change is inevitable. And you're either on the side of the change. I'm not talking about the change back. I'm talking about the change forward. And or you're on the side of resistance to change. And, you know, it's up to you to decide if you want to be a changeling or if you want to perish. I mean, it really does come down to that black and white. So anyways, yeah, that's a lot of thoughts for today. I haven't been on here for a week, and I think it's because the last video was pretty long as well. But, you know, I know that those that are meant to see this will see it and see it all the way through to the end. And, you know, if nobody watches this video for 10 years and then somebody finally comes across it and they watch it and are like, yep, she's right, then that is what it is. I'm not just doing it for them, I'm doing it for myself. So, because I know I'll come back and watch this eventually. But yeah, my key takeaways are, you know, continue to unmask who you aren't and change it into who you are and who you want to be. And know that regardless of how you feel about change, that change is real and you can embrace it or you can discount it. But it's still coming for you. It still is. And I am very pleased with who I am becoming. I'm starting to become more confident, and I've always been extremely self-aware. But I'm even more self-aware, but in a more universal way, and I really like that about myself. And so find something that you really like about yourself and stop worrying about the things that don't matter to you. Like in my case, eyebrows don't matter to me. It doesn't really change who I am as a person. It just shows you that I don't care about eyebrows. That's what you see. Or at least that I'm okay with how mine look. And I am. There's sometimes I wish they were a little more groomed, but for the most part, they are what they are. The same thing with my hair journey. I've changed my hair a lot over the course of my life, and even though this style seems chaotic and messy and unkempt, and for some people it seems dirty, even though it absolutely is not. I have more cleanliness and standards of practice now than I did before. I just don't have to brush my hair every day. But this was another part of that unbecoming into who I really am meant to be. And I feel like this hairstyle matches the fact that hair is not important to me. The way it's styled is not important to me, except in a functional manner. And for me, it's either up or it's down. And that's all that matters, because there's other things in my life that are more important, like taking care of my animals in a way that benefits not just me, but gives them the best life that I can give them with the means that I have. And I'm working on my other personal relationships and things, the ones that I find are important to me. But as I learn more about myself and being autistic, the more those relationships are going to mold in a different way. And, you know, some of the relationships that I think are close to me now are probably going to navigate away because they're not going to be able to handle the fact that I am not now conforming. Because I've always been a non-conformist, but now it's getting even more non-conformity. And so I know that's going to be distressing to people that are resistant to change. And, you know, I'm okay with that. Some of it might be painful, but I'm okay with a little pain. I've had a lot of pain in my life, in my physical body, in my spiritual body, in my mental body. And yeah, and in my spiritual body, I mean just the process of rebirth, the coming home to myself. So anyways, I know that this video is long, but I hope that it has been helpful in a roundabout way, which is my way, and I'm okay with that. I love you, my dearest confidant. Until next time.